Good morning, everyone.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning, Mar. We're just about to start another Effisus'key Connector Value session. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Mar, which is part of our technical department. For those who hear the first time, just to let you know, we do have a Q&A session. If you have any question, we're here to answer, we're here to discuss. Today, we decided to bring a more practical theme when it comes to installation, understanding the actual problem. Comment anything you have, just feel free to leave during the presentation. We're here to help. Today we'll be focusing on our solution, which is called Tight Gutter 3. In other topics, we've been mentioned solution is specific for gutters. We all know how important it is to have a solution to seal, to repair a whole gutter. We know the important part that gutter play on the structure part, even the structural part of the building, to collect all the water to go to the drain outlets, and that will lead to the foundations. So this is the main purpose of the gutters. On industrial application or even commercial application, we have different types of gutters. In this case, we decided to split this on finishing, slope, and the type of connection, in this case, types of joint. So when it comes to finishing, we have different typologies of finishings of a gutter, most common being lacquered, galvanized, stainless steel, other types of metal, even aluminum, and not so common, but we find even some gutters made by masonry or other types of materials. Slope, we will have gutters with slope and no slope. The ones that doesn't have no slope at all, they will work starting with the water pressure, starting to leave this water when it feels like there's sort of pressure on the gutter itself. This type of mechanics we find on this typology itself. So in other topics, I think yesterday we had a practical training that was focused specifically on the repair of the whole gutter, the whole integrity of the gutter. Today we decided to focus in our solution that is designed, that is specific only for the gutter joints or the connection itself. So when it comes to connections, we found then most of the times being welded, overlapped, session, and in this case it's just a matter of placing on top of the other. It's a different type of overlapping. And what we see here is a couple of difficulties when it comes to seal this specific joint, the specific type of gutter joints or gutter connections. Most of them will be exactly, and they will be related in regards to the finishing. For instance, when we have a aluminum or stainless steel gutter, it's quite hard to make a welding on the joints, on the connection itself, because the material itself, what happens is once you're trying to weld, you deteriorate the joint and deteriorate the actual finishing. And again, you don't have as much flexibility. We know how this materials actually was panned and contract differently, of having a material with sort of flexibility to make the sealing and the joint and the connection itself. So we need to take a look to actually into details, understanding the actually finishing, the extra materials that is going to be applied. The length, of course, is very important to assure how much connections or how many connections you have on the gutter itself. So the solution that we decided to bring today, we call it a Tight Gutter 3, as you might be aware. In comparison to the ones that we mentioned today, again, this one is designed specifically for the connections, for the joints. So this is a triple level waterproofing solution, we call it, because it's composed, again, by three materials. The first level, as you see here, it will be the two-bond tape. We'll go further today in this presentation, mentioning all the aspects, the technical characteristics of all of these levels, this level of sealing or waterproofing solution. So the first one, as you see here, is the 2,1-DS. On top of that, we have the Ecofacade membrane. And then on the perimeter of the solution, you see here, this is white. I'm sorry for the picture if you cannot see it that well, but again, on the practical session of this presentation, you understand exactly what we mentioned. We have the bonding KF+P adhesive, just to seal all around the perimeter of the solution. So tight cutted trees, it has, again, as we think, those are actually good characteristics and characteristics that you should have in a product when you're looking to seal these connections. So elasticity and flexibility is really important. First, the first thing, because again, you have contraction, expansion, exactly these joints. And we all know that the joints are probably the weakest point on a gutter. So we will find a lot of leakage inside the building or etc. that can go through inside the building and go to huge damage. So it's important to have some flexibility, some elasticity when you're trying to seal these points. So since it's completely exposure in most of the case, you need, of course, a solution that is resistant, robust, to be exposure to the atmospheric agents, as UV, water, rain, of course. And it could be easy to install, adapt to the certain different project requirements, different materials. This solution is specific. We designed supplying kits, so easy to install. All the materials you're going to need, it comes as a kit. And again, resist to this type of structure, thermal expansion. Mar, do you want to mention something else before we starting going to level by level or understanding all the products?
Yeah, absolutely. In this case, as you said, it's today. Yesterday I was here, so we did the whole gutter. But sometimes we don't need to look all the gutter. The damage is only in the, as you said, in the weakest part of the gutter. So in this kind of joints, we have multiple variations when you see in places, and normally sometimes it's because of the temperature. Obviously, the main purpose it's water. It's to resist water. These kind of structures, but then they normally get even in summer or in winter very extreme temperatures. So sometimes we had some deformations or something like that. So we have to be very careful with the movements, with even thermal and structural. And if you allowed me, before to start the technical itself, we can send a question to all our participants today.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm going to send and invite everyone to participate and see what they normally do, or they what are the options they choose when we are talking about fix this kind of problems.
Okay, so in a joint connection of industrial gutter, in this case galvanized gutter, which are options you must prefer? We will pick to seal this type of connection. So overlapping screw, welding, overlapping or using a certain sort of sealing or mastic, or would you use a liquid membrane?
We invite to everyone to participate.
Okay, I don't know if we have the results, Mar, or are you going to show this later?
Yeah, I think, okay, maybe now.
Is not show. Okay, yes.
Okay.
I think I think yes, you can see the results now.
Okay. So, okay, 100%, it's overlap. So overlap, normally it's overlap, okay. Not welding, yes, when we're talking about welding, normally they don't resist the movement, so with time they break.
Okay, absolutely. So let's go further here. This one, we got a level 0. It is not including, of course, in the triple level solution, but it's quite important, as always, to have the surface where you're going to make the connection clean. In this case, we have a particular cleaner that we use to clean this type of surface. But again, it could be other materials depending on the actual surface you're trying to clean. Yeah. Correct, Mark?
Yeah, this step, okay, it's the first step of every application of almost everything, and it's really important. So it's as important as the rest as to apply correct the rest of the products, because sometimes if the situation, if the application is not completely clean, in this case it was a new one, but in other cases normally it's a reparation. So we have to be very sure that everything is completely removed and dry and without any fat. So this is really important. And of course, yeah, and of course it could be this our cleaning, and of course alcohol or something like that.
Yeah, this is what we recommend. We use for the most, which is compatible with most of substrates, and we find quite good to clean the substrates. I mean, this is what depend. But again, you can use alcohol depending where you used to do this. So the first level in this case will be the Tubon-DS tape. This is a tape that we use for many different applications. In this case, it will be used to actually seal, being the first level to seal the joints. And it's important to mention that this tape has a lot of interesting properties in comparing to other standard tapes as you find in the market. This is something we're very proud of. So Effisus'key Tubon-DS is a double-sided adhesive tape that is based on an innovative technology that is composed by active sealants. So this active sealant being is once you press it down a little bit, this primer that is sort of encapsulated on the tape itself will emerge with the substrate, in this case the joint that you're applying, assuring a complete water tightness point on the joint itself. So it is very robust, resistant. They have like expectancy for over 20 years. It can resist to a very different range or temperatures. In this case, can go to minus 50 Celsius degrees to up to 120. The application, it's quite easy. We'll be focusing on this today, the actual application for the whole solution. So as you see here, it's double-sided, and what you're seeing here is at the side. So you actually have measure up the actually joint total development, including the box, the sides, the whole length that we need to seal. So it's cutting out. Once you cut it, you remove one side of the foil. It has two, since it's double-sided, it has two protective foils. You remove one side, and just with a pad, like a card, you're just trying to accommodate on the joint itself, removing gradually during the application. One thing we recommend in this case is in the corners, you just sort of let a shape, making the corners the sort of 90-degree corners. So we do not recommend to stretch it, as you see here on this detail. I think it's quite, I think we can see here, Mark, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the first barrier of the, and actually it's the main purpose of the whole application. This is we can say almost the most important, and we have to be very careful when we apply it. Sorry, we have to be very careful, and of course we have to, if we have some small stick or something like that, or a flat thing, something we can help us to avoid in the corners, in the vertical and horizontal parts, to follow completely the shape and avoid any kind of air inside, or any kind of if we damage the adhered. We can say here it's we have to do it gradually in a progressive way, because this kind of material attach everything at the moment, and then
it's very sticky. It's very sticky, so you just need to a little bit careful. So once you stake, you find even quite hard, since it's very strong bonding, it's very strong adherence properties. So you find quite hard to remove. So what I recommend is you gradually, again, this is just a very easy process and very fast, the whole solution itself. Just to be careful, so you just don't actually need to remove it and place it again, but it's quite easy. Again, removing the foil, the bottom one, and then you just go confirming around the corners you see there. So you're just pressing down around there. In this case, we went all the way up, and not is that only in this part, but we went over there because, of course, since we need to seal the whole connection, the whole joint. In this case, if you see, we even have a fastener, so a sort of a screw here. So it's quite interesting because we even use this specific tape to sealing this specific type of details or screw or fasteners. So you can also do that, and we even recommend. So you can stand over and cover the perforations as well. The other level will be our Ecofacade membrane, which this is another level of waterproofing. This is a triple level. This is the second level. First level being the tube-on-the-S, the one we just mentioned. The other level is the Ecofacade membrane. So this membrane, it comes in different, and just the width and the exact dimension you need will be for that joint itself. So we supply this for the specific application, the quantity you need. The rolls, I think, is 20-meter long. So depending, of course, on the sort of development of the gutter, this can just fit for multiple applications. You don't actually have to worry about all of this. And from the client side, from your guys' sides, all we need to know is the quantity of connections you do have, and the total development, meaning including the whole gutter development. And knowing that, we make some calculus, Mar do this, and we made an estimation to include all the materials you need for this application, so you don't need to worry on all of this. So the Ecofacade membrane is basically a PDM membrane, reinforced in PDM with I think 1.2 thickness, 1.3 millimeters thickness. So it's quite robust, quite thick for this type of application. And we all know EPDM has been applied for over 50 years on the roofing application. So this material is quite interesting because you don't have to actually have some sort of aging or accelerated test to confirm all these properties that we have, because it's been applied for so many years. So it's very resistant to UV. It's 100% watertight, and mostly is known by being a rubber material, a PDM material. It has elongation to up to 300%. So it's quite interesting to have such a flexible material being applied on the joint itself. Correct, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. In this case, it's in the case before, in the tube-on-the-S, it's not resistant to UVs. That's why it's really important to put something as flexible as the other one, not as flexible, but almost, and something UV resistant. So a part of the UV resistance, of course, the variation is extremes. The extreme temperature is once again protect with this kind of membrane, and in this case it's a EPDM cure. So we have since the beginning the security of the protection. It's completely watertight, so we don't have any problem.
Absolutely. So going here to the application, again, you see measure up where it's going to be applied. In this case, you measure in the middle, knowing where the joint is going to be. He's marked it down with a pencil, sharp, just to know exactly where you need to place later on. So he's doing here the same thing. So once
if you if you love me, I can say before to retire the second protect foil of the tube on DS, mark the gutter in this case, because if you put it before to remove the second layer, is going to be a stick. So if you want it changing the symmetry, then it's impossible.
Absolutely. So what you need to do here is, of course, remove the other foil since it's double-sided. And as Mark's saying, you mark it down here. So this membrane is not a self-adhesive membrane. It is a PDM membrane. It has all the elongation properties, but it's not self-adhesive as the tape that you apply in the first layer. So you need to use, and this is the other level, or this is the third level of the whole solution, is the bonding KF+P adhesive. So this is basically a sealing adhesive that we use it not only to seal the perimeter of the application, but we actually use to stick the PDM membrane on the joint. And it has many properties as we see here. So this is based on PDMS polymers. So it's quite very, very resistant to UV and high temperature variations. So we use inclusive this solution itself, this whole solution, a lot of in Middle East markets. So it's quite interesting because it resists to the high temperatures that we found it. Here in Europe, we have many application of that too. But it's important to see that this whole solution will also works with extreme temperatures as we see on the Middle East. So it's remain flexible, remain some properties on the flexibility. So again, bringing the whole flexibility here to discussion. It's solvent free, so it's interesting again for us in a logistic point of view. So it's you don't have any VOCs, any type of that type of material. So for even for transportation, it's quite nice to have a product like that. And again, if it could fit to most of the substrate, we have no problem of using this sealant, this adhesive. So in this case, what we have here, Mar.
Yeah, we can say in this particular product, this is a system one. We have a system all of when we assess. Sorry, when it's a system, we have to be sure that all the materials involved has the same properties. So in this case, this one is of course as the other one flexible and resist high temperatures and movements. So in this case, we normally to apply it, we apply two beans of the sealant in the
two bits of
beds,
the adhesive.
sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, 2 bits of the sealant in the right part or the left part. We decide the first one, and after that we apply the membrane only in that part, in the first one, in one side. Then
Yeah, as I think we can see here in this picture, Mar, because as you apply one
yes,
side.
the first one we apply the sealant. And then we adhere the EPDM membrane. When it's completely adhere with our hands and with a small roll or something like that, then we unfold a little bit the membrane and put the other part of the other side, the sealant again, and then we apply it. And now we can ensure that everything is symmetric and good applied.
Absolutely. So here again, quite easy. You saw the first level to bond the S, you apply it to bit of adhesive, and then you just after you have marked it down, you can see here even the marks. You go there placing in the Ecofacade membrane that you have the adhesive. So the whole solution it's quite fast. Just to give a quick resume here. So it's when it comes to simplicity, efficiency, we all know the most exposure material here in this case will be the Ecofacade membrane, the PDM membrane. So it has over 50-year life expectancy. It can resist to water stagnation. Most important, in comparison to welding this connection or doing this type of job, making this weld jobs, you don't have the actual problem because you will not damage the finishing. If it's required, for instance, to do some sort of repair works, you can remove the solution, and this will absolutely not damage the whole solution. Again, it's compatible with pretty much all gutter dimensions and configurations since it's very mobile. Malleable. You saw in this case a normal application with just a square sort of a box application, but it could have different configuration, different dimensions. The solution will fit the same. When it comes to accessories, as you saw, you don't actually need pretty much anything. This is all the accessories here in this case will be the product itself, maybe just the gun to apply the sealant, and that's it. So the goal here is, of course, trying to minimize it, to have a robust solution and to minimize all this type of work done at site. As I mentioned, welding, you need a specialized labor, specialized worker to do that type of job. If you have liquid membranes, you're not assured the actual thickness. When you're going to apply, it becomes very hard, very dry. So here is to have, the goal is to have a flexible, a durable, resistant solution. And again, working as a three-level water tightness. Uh, as you see here, you see the whole solution being applied. In the end, we recommend just to have a bit here, all the perimeter of the KF+P. Again, this is just to understand how all these levels, how all these layers they work together. Because first we have just that one that you can see. This you cannot see here, which is the tube on the S. Which will be very good by itself. But in the end, we have even another one and then another one. So three level working together for the same goal for the solution. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. For any additional information, you can also check our catalog. Effisus have different solution when it comes to roofing application, or we call it outperforming department, which includes different solutions for sealing of metal joints, sealing of skylights, in this case gutter joints, many different solutions when it comes to roofing applications in industrial, commercial, residential applications. We do also have other department that is dedicated specific to facade application, facade waterproofing. So what I like to do is invite you guys to check our website, check our solutions. Again, we have different possibilities here. It's just to understand when it comes to waterproofing, we have different possibilities, and we're here to help you guys. So here's my contact. If you have any additional questions, something that we did not fulfill in this session, I'm here to help you. So just give me a call or send me an email. I'm also like to thank you, my colleague Mar, which is part of the technical department. Again, this is something very technical. I'll be glad to forward to Mar. For us, it's really important as well to have your guys' feedback. So I think once you leave the session, maybe a pop-up will show up asking just very quick feedback. This will take not more than 2-3 minutes. So thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, and have a good weekend, everybody.
You too.